Right then, here we have dirty filter. So the first step to do is going to be to clear out all this excess debris, like that. Just get in with your fingers, and if you find that if you just rub your thumb across the surface, that will actually help to take away the very worst of the debris as well. So as you can see, there's a whole load of dirt left in the recess there, so just get in with your fingers, try and hoik out as much as possible, and just generally get rid of all of the excess debris off the filter. Unfortunately, the oil is really sticky, so it does tend to just roll up into balls on your fingers. And now that we've got the worst of the debris off the filter, we're ready to apply the cleaner. So we've got it in a pump action bottle here, so make sure that it's set on stream and then just start to pump it into the filter. The idea of the cleaner is to break down the oil that is holding the dust onto the foam. Get plenty on there. You need to make sure that this is going to work all the way through to all of the layers, so don't be shy in applying plenty. With a good liberal coating applied, you can now start to massage it into the foam. And what we need to do is we need to work it down into all the layers. If necessary, apply another coating. And if you can as well, it always helps to apply a little bit on the inside. Just helps you to work it thoroughly through. And again, fully work that inside and make sure it's coming all the way through the foam. And once you're fairly confident that you've managed to get that worked all the way through into all of the layers, you're now ready to start to rinse it out in water. On the majority of our filters, the foam is made in 3 layers. You have a coarse, a medium and a fine layer. It's always a good idea to try and back flush through with water coming from the clean side outwards, so from the fine side outwards, and this will help take as much of the dirt and debris through as possible when it's being washed out. The easiest way to do that is to run it under a tap and run the water through from the inside of the filter outwards. But basically, get the tap running and then just start to run the water through like that, and you can just see all of the dirt and the cleaner is just coming out with it all in one go. You give it a bit of a massage and agitate it as well, that'll help to get the majority of the cleaner out. And once you've got the majority of the cleaning fluid off, you'll see that the water then starts to run through clean. And there we go, the water's running out clean now. So the next thing to do is actually to fill the sink up and give it a proper wash out. With the majority of the cleaner washed off from the tap, we're now ready to submerge the filter under water and thoroughly wash out the last of the cleaner. So you can do this by dropping it in, rolling it around, getting the fresh water in there, and then just massage it in as deeply as possible. Again, if possible, get your hands inside, work through from the inside. And when you can see that the water's running out as clean as possible, you know that you've got as much of the cleaner off as possible. So at this stage, although not strictly necessary, but always worth the extra work, is just to grab a little bit of washing up liquid, small amount onto the filter, like so, and then massaging this in and rubbing this in really deeply as well. And the joy with the washing up liquid is you'll see it all starting to foam up through. Is you know when you've got full penetration through because it starts to foam up on the inside. And once you're sure that you've worked it all the way through, just thoroughly rinse it out in clean water. At various stages as you go through this process, it's always a good idea, again with the tap, just to try and back flush anything through. And just get it running through until it's all nice and clean. And then when you're fairly sure that you've got all the washing up liquid out, you're then ready to swill it out in a sink of fresh water. Okay, so with a fresh sink of water, take the filter and then just give it its final last rinse through. So again, working the foam just to make sure there's no bubbles or frothing left. Just thoroughly work it all the way through. And again, back flush it through with the tap as well. And there we can see all the water now is running out perfectly clean. No signs of cleaner, washing up liquid or any dirt. And all that's left to do now is just give it a good shake out, get the excess water out. And with that done, we can just leave it overnight and let it air dry out properly and thoroughly. Not necessary, but if you have access to them, latex gloves or rubber gloves are always a good idea for this part of the process. After all, you're dealing with oil and it's just nice not to have to wash it all off your hands again afterwards. We need to get in quite deep with the oil, so don't be afraid to get in quite close with the nozzle and keep spraying until you just start to see some of the pores just starting to fill up with oil. And the important thing here is to be as methodical as possible, so making sure that you get the nozzle quite close, and you can see there that you're just starting to fill up some of the outer pores with oil. This really is one of those things that's quite good to be as methodical as possible, making sure that you cover every last little bit of foam with roughly the same amount of oil. Now that you've sprayed the oil into the foam as deeply as possible, you now need to try and work it into the foam as deep as possible with your fingers. And this basically just involves massaging it in as much as possible, rubbing it and working it through to all of the layers. It's quite critical that you do get the oil through to all of the layers, because it's the oil that the dust will actually stick to. If you don't manage to work it through all the way through, what you sometimes find is you'll form a dry spot in the filter and you'll lose filtering efficiency. Again, if you can get your hands up inside just to support the foam whilst it's worked through, it all helps.